Hello, one and all. This is my recap and review of Ascendance Bookworm, Part 4, Volume 9, The End of an Era. And one of the things I so love about this series is that every volume ends with a fundamental shakeup, a seismic shift in the series. Part 1 ended with Myne going from being a commoner to being a shrine maiden. Part 2 ended with her going from being a shrine maiden to the Archduke's freaking adopted daughter and saying goodbye to her family. Part 3 ended not only with a 2-year coma, but also with Myne having to go to the Royal Academy, having to deal with other duchies. And now Part 4 ends with Myne losing Ferdinand, her best ally, her strongest supporter, the person who she has arguably spent the most amount of time with since she came into this world, since she became Myne. So, yeah, this is going to cause a lot of problems for her, and honestly, I expected this volume to be focused on the sadness of it, of Myne, contemplating the loss of Ferdinand, but instead, again and again, it showed that Myne no longer needs Ferdinand. She's capable of standing up on her own without him. Like, for example, when Myne realizes that someone broke into her office, she gives out orders to every one of her retainers, knowing exactly where to send them, exactly what they need to do, and exactly who to send where. And even though Ferdinand is in the room at this moment, he doesn't say a single thing. He doesn't have a single criticism about what Myne does with her retainers. He believes that she is in the right here. And in fact, later on, he's even impressed about how much information she was able to gather by contacting commoners. I mean, yes, Myne did attempt to go after the book herself and, almost touch the poison Bible, thinking it was just a regular old book, but I mean, that's the kind of thing that Myne's retainers can keep her from doing. She doesn't necessarily need Ferdinand for that. And I think Myne's growth is shown even better in the big climax of this volume, when Myne says goodbye to Ferdinand, and she gives him a blessing with every element, with every major god being called. And at first glance, you might look at this and say, oh yeah, this is just like what Myne did when she had to say goodbye to her family. This is Myne saying that Ferdinand is like family to her. That's nice. Except that's not what happened at all. Instead, this is Myne's way of showing how much she's grown because of Ferdinand. Back then, that blessing she did, as fantastic and amazing and awe-inspiring as it was done by instinct. It was the raw emotions of a little girl who lost her family and who could nothing but cry and basically just improvise a blessing as a result. But now, oh no. Now she is so much more than that. For one thing, she is the Archduke's adopted daughter, so she can no longer cry as freely as she once did. And now she has a magic wand, and now she has the High Bishop's Bible, so she can give a true blessing, the High Bishop's blessing to Ferdinand, as a way of saying, look, Ferdinand, look at what I've become. I am a grown woman, more or less. I am a proper noble. I am all of this because of you, because you turned me into this. And now go forth knowing that I will be okay, that I have the strength needed to keep myself safe. Holy mother of God, I love it. I mean, Ferdinand is literally left speechless by this. In fact, let me look up the actual line. He is shocked by her saintly demeanor, her melancholic beauty, and the absolute perfection of her magic circle. So yeah, even Ferdinand is awed in this moment, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, that's a goodbye. That is a goodbye you will never forget. And I'm very curious about what exactly this blessing can do. I mean, let's not forget, the blessing Myne gave her family managed to cure her mother, who was still recovering from giving birth, managed to treat her father, whose arm was severely burned by magic, managed to treat Damuel, who was basically in a coma after getting knocked out. It did so much insane stuff, and now Myne is so much stronger that this blessing could literally do anything to Ferdinand. It could probably bring him back from the dead. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Anyway, though, then the volume itself starts off with a prologue from Florentia's point of view, and this felt very interesting to me because Florentia is arguably the person here who knows the least about anything. She doesn't know about Ferdinand's backstory like Myne does. She doesn't know about Georgine like Sylvester does. I don't even think she knows that Myne used to be a commoner. I mean, this was the kind of thing I've gone back and forth on for a while. Like, would Sylvester really lie to his wife about something like this? But yeah, I think he did. I mean, when I first read this, she said that Myne likes to go to the temple so she can meet her family under the guise of discussing the printing industry. And at first I'm like, oh, okay, so she actually knows that Myne's meeting with her commoner family at the temple. Great! But then the very next line was talking about Elvira, which I think seems to imply that Florentia was told by Sylvester that Myne is meeting her family in the temple, and Florentia, who doesn't know that Myne is a commoner, assumed that meant that Myne was meeting with Elvira and Karstead in the temple, which... interesting. Very, very interesting. I mean, that would definitely explain one of the more concerning things I've noticed since Myne entered the Royal Academy, namely, there is a whole freaking lot about noble society that she doesn't actually know. Like, when it came to making those engagement face stones, she accidentally said, I want you to dye me with your colors, which, as it turns out, was an incredibly provocative line, and the kind of thing that she should have been told at some point by her mother not to say. So, Florentia thinks that Myne is meeting with Elvira in the temple, and Elvira is doing the mothering, and I guess Elvira thinks that Myne is meeting with Florentia in the castle, and she's getting the mothering from there. So Myne is getting no mothering, but both women think she is, and Florentia will mention it because it's, special mother-daughter time between the two of them. While Elvira won't mention it because, that's my boss, that is the Archduke's wife, I can't criticize her mothering, or the fact that Myne really doesn't seem to understand noble society at all. So, yeah, I think that actually explains why Myne is so in the dark for so much, simply because, both women think the other is teaching Myne about, the birds and the bees and all that. Oh, honestly, I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait for the reveal when they both realize, I thought that was your job. I thought that was your job. Oh, no! Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Anyway, though, then Florentia meets with Charlotte, and I love this. Seriously, God above, give Charlotte the Archduke's seat right now. She deserves it. She absolutely deserves it, and she is so bitter that she's not even in contention anymore, as she says that Wilfried passes the bar simply by committing no grave errors. Basically, Wilfried is an idiot, a complete and absolute idiot, who is optimistic and oblivious, as he refers to Detland as kind, just like grandmother. Yeah, he actually said that. This man actually freaking said that, and this was after Detland said that she wanted a fancier hairpin than the one given to Adolphine. The one given to Adolphine by her fiancé, the Crown freaking Prince. So yes, Detland is trying to one-up the Crown Prince just because of a petty squabble, and yet Wilfried still thinks that, somehow Detland is actually nice. He's an idiot. He's honestly 100% a freaking idiot. Anyway, though, the bigger issue right now is the fact that Wilfried seems to think that the Lyskang faction is on his side. They are not. Rather, they are just, not actively opposing him anymore, and he really doesn't get the difference, so... yeah, that's concerning. That is very concerning. And Charlotte, she's actually a little bit evil right here, and I so appreciate it, as she suggests replacing some of Wilfried's retainers with Lyskang members as a means of showing Wilfried that the Lyskang faction aren't actually fully on his side. I'd love to see that. That's gonna be fun. Though a large part of Charlotte's anger comes down to the fact that Oswald, Wilfried's, head retainer, keeps insisting that she yields her achievements to him to, stack him up, to rise him up, to make him look better than he actually is, which is apparently the old way of doing things in Ehrenfest, where everyone worked for the Archduke. And this is actually really interesting because in Tales from the Royal Academy, yes, I grabbed this book on my shelf just for this one moment, we actually got a weird scene with Wilfried and his retainers, where they basically, they were angry at Myne's retainers for not doing more to help them out, because they should all work for him as he is the future Archduke. No, that's how things used to be, but that's not how things are done anymore. And what's more, the retainers here were like, well, you can't really blame Myne too much because her retainers, they're lice gangs. They suck. They are awful, terrible people. And Myne has only known them for a month, so she hasn't had the chance to break them in and force them to obey her. Yeah, that was a red flag. That was a really, really big red flag right there. But also, I'm actually really curious about what exactly is happening between the Lice Gang factions and Veronica, because later on in the short story, it says that Veronica believed Lice Gang faction killed her mother and brother, and I'm honestly not sure if that happened or not, because we also are told, in this volume, that the Lice Gang faction are so devoted to farming that they don't actually care about money. So I have a hard time imagining them, outright committing murder against someone as important as Veronica's parents, or Veronica's mother, Gabrielle, and Veronica's brother. Very, very curious about that. But anyway, though, my big takeaway from the prologue is that Charlotte should 100% become the next Archduke, and Wilfried should, I don't know, marry into Dunkelfelger or become the next Knight Commander. Wait, no, I guess Cornelius become the next Knight Commander, so yeah, I got no idea what Wilfried's gonna do. Anyway, though, then we have Myne deciding to have a big going-away party for Ferdinand at the Italian restaurant, and originally she's like, okay, it's gonna be me, two of my retainers, my guard knights, that's it. But then every single one of her retainers finds an excuse to go, and Roderick and Feline are my absolute favorite here because Myne is not only their master, but also technically their legal guardian, so they need her permission to leave the noble's quarter. And so this basically just becomes them going like, Mommy, 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 can we please go, please? It's adorable. It is absolutely adorable, and Ferdinand has a great time. He has a special soup, and he and Myne even exchange presents, as both of them got the other a protective charm. And Ferdinand is, well, first off, utterly befuddled by rapping, like, what is this strange monstrosity? Love it. And also just deeply touched and shocked that Myne was actually able to make a protective charm for him. Again, this is showing how much Myne has grown, that she can now do things that shock even Ferdinand, and not just because she's insane. Things are actually impressive for a noble to do. And as for Ferdinand, he got Myne a hair stick with 5 rainbow face stones, each of which is a protective charm, and this is exactly what Myne asked for 3-4 volumes ago when she was first dissecting the fish, and she's like, wow, these rainbow face stones make great accessories. And everyone was just completely and utterly shocked because, each of them was worth a small freaking fortune, and now Myne is wearing 5 of them on her hair at all times. In fact, in the short stories in the volume, Cornelius and Leonor are a little bit bothered by this, saying basically, yeah, that's kind of, basically an engagement present. Or at the very least, it is a nicer present than the one Ferdinand actually got for his actual fiancée. So yeah, some red flags there, especially considering that later on this volume, Ferdinand asks Myne to embroider his cape. I mean, technically he asks her to, draw it in invisible ink, but still, asking someone to decorate your cape is tantamount to a marriage proposal. In fact, that is literally how Cornelius proposed to Leonor, saying basically, would you embroider my cape? And that was all it took for them to get together. Jesus, mother of God above, I love it. Anyway, though, yeah, like I said, some major red flags between Myne and Ferdinand's. I'm not saying they're a couple, I'm just saying, there's some signs the author is going in that direction. Not now, obviously, but maybe, 5-10 volumes down the road. We'll see what happens. Anyway, though, then Ferdinand decides to ruin the pleasant, wonderful mood of his party, first off by telling stories about how Veronica used to regularly poison his food at every chance she got. Something that didn't even stop when Ferdinand entered the temple, as Veronica had the previous High Bishop, poison his food, or at least attempted to. Ferdinand found out about it and managed to turn tables on him and poison the High Bishop instead, which, with a much, much lower dose, that still left him in bed for about 3 days. Oh, that man is vicious, and I love it. And speaking of vicious, when Myne hears this, she pops up and says that she would have killed Veronica even at the cost of her own life, which Eckhart just, furiously agrees with. And this is a very weird bonding moment between the two of them, and I absolutely love it. Also, I saw online, apparently at one point the author wrote something on Twitter basically saying that Eckhart was fully planning on killing Veronica, and it was only stopped because of his family, and if he actually gone through with it, bad things, very, very bad things would happen to him, his family, and the duchy as a whole. But yeah, very strange that Eckhart is the brother that Myne is most like. Weird. Very, very weird. Anyway, though, then Ferdinand spoils the mood again by asking Myne if all retainers are trustworthy, and when she says yes, he warns them that at the Royal Academy, the biggest danger to Myne will be the Veronica faction, which, confuses all of them because, hey, Ferdinand, I don't know if you found out, but we've managed to befriend the Veronica faction. We're all good at the Royal Academy. Though Roderick has a rather different reaction to this, realizing the purge is happening, that every single Veronica faction member will be killed. Or at least it's what he expects, but it turns out that Myne has actually managed to change Sylvester's mind, has actually managed to convince him that a total purge will not be necessary, and that any student at the Royal Academy whose parents were in the Veronica faction, who gives up their name to a member of the Archduke family, will be spared. And this, again, is a great sign of how much the world has changed because of Myne. At her growth, she was actually able to not only win over her enemies, but convince her allies to trust those very enemies. Love it. Absolutely love it. Anyway, though, then Myne gets back to the temple, realizes that 4 Grey Priests have been kidnapped, and that her Bible was stolen and replaced with a poisoned duplicate. And there's a rather interesting moment here where when Eckhart sees the poison, it says he looks at it with a hateful glare. Yeah, that's my hateful glare. And I'm wondering if this might have been the exact same poison that was used on his wife that killed her. I mean, hateful glare, that feels very intentional. Not sure about that. But anyway, though, then thanks to the combined work of Myne's retainers, the commoners, the Grey Priest, and Conrad, Myne is able to figure out that the culprit is Shix's mom, Viscountess Daldolf. Yeah, I got no way to pronounce her name, so I'll just call her Viscountess moving forward. And, it turns out the Viscountess kinda went a little bit insane after Myne got her son killed. Or to be more accurate, she went really insane after her son's own stupidity got him killed. Or to be even more accurate, she went full-blown banana boat insane after her son's moronic psychopathy got him killed. So yeah, that's an issue, and now Myne can finally freaking deal with him. I mean, seriously, think about it. That all happened. The thing with Shix, it happened... That was part 2. Yeah, that was part 2. That was like almost 20 volumes ago. And we are finally now getting closure on this crazy, insane woman who's wanted Myne dead ever since then. Huzzah! But anyway, though, then they go after the carriage containing the Grey Priest, and once they stop it, the devouring soldier pops out with the Grey Priest, held at knife point, like, I'll kill him, make one wrong move and I'll freaking kill him! And Damuel responds to this very calmly and clearly by stabbing him! Not the devouring soldier, but the Grey Priest! And then he kills him, and kills the devouring soldier. Oh, I freaking love it. Because, yeah, it turns out Damuel has spent a really freaking long time in the temple, and as such, he knows the face of every single Grey Priest, and can say with utmost certainty the dude he stabbed was in fact not actually a priest, but a devouring soldier in disguise. So, good for you, Damuel. Very impressive. This part of the volume also reveals that Damuel is actually so good at reading mana, better than anyone else in Myne's employ, that he's able to identify exactly who is Devouring Soldier and who isn't, which, crazy impressive skill, seriously. Anyway, though, when they save the Grey Priest, only to get a message from Lenore saying, please, come back, I can't stop Hartmut alone. And that, that message was certainly appropriate, given that when they do get back to the temple, they find a tied-up blue priest with a knife to his throat by Hartmut, while the Grey Priests are tying up his retainers. An act that Fran described as very emotionally burdening for them. Which, makes sense, because, they're tying up people who are essentially nobles, so they're gonna die. But also, if they refuse Hartmut's orders, they're gonna die. So there's nothing they can really do not to die in this moment. Absolutely love it. And turns out the blue priest that Hartman was in the midst of beating up wasn't even the culprit. Rather, he just called Myne a commoner, and that irked Hartman so much that he went after him and beat him over the back of the head. Oh my god above, I love it. Though I really do feel like, before Ferdinand left, he and Myne should have probably, sat Hartman down and basically explained, so Myne, she actually is a commoner, because that would make it so much easier for Myne to spend time with her family in the temple if Hartman is on her side. And there is absolutely no chance on God's green earth that Hartman would lose even an ounce of faith if he found out that Myne was a commoner. In fact, that would make him even more religious. In fact, probably the biggest concern there would be that, just trying to stop Hartman from telling everyone in the world that Myne, who was born a commoner, is now top of her class in the Royal Academy simply because, she's been blessed by the gods, or she's actually a god herself. Love it. And though then they decide that Egmont is the culprit simply because he was the one who messed with Myne's bookworm in the past. And that's her, womanly instinct speaking up, telling her that he must be the relevant party, which leads just the best burn in this entire volume, as Cornelia says, no matter how tiny she is still a woman. The freak. Holy mother of God above, Cornelius, I love you. I absolutely love you. Anyway, then they get to Egmont's room, break down the door, and find him mid-coitus with the Grey Priest. And then Myne's like, hey, wait a minute, why is this dude holding a face stone ring? He isn't, proper noble. And when Ferdinand sees that, he first off covers Myne's eyes with his cape, and then cuts off the man's hand. This is a surprisingly violent volume. I love it. Because, it turns out that Egmont is a complete and absolute moron who got scammed into selling himself into slavery with a ring that would have 100% killed him as soon as his role was finished. Oh, that man's a moron. Love it. Though on the bright side, his memories are enough to take down the Viscountess's entire house, and the ring connects him to House Garlic, who was probably the person who kidnapped Myne, at the end of part 3, so yay! It has actually made things so much easier for them to go after the Veronica faction. Awesome! And so Myne is ready for her bloody carnival, and then she gets her high base, she flies in the air and thinks to herself, I have absolutely no idea where the Countess lives. And yet, despite that, once she's actually brought to the house, she's for some reason allowed to go in first, tying up the butler and crushing him, even though this man clearly knows absolutely nothing about what's going on. And as for the Viscountess herself, she blew up her attendants' heads and her own so that no memories could be read. And so the only thing to do is go to see her husband, the Viscount, and when they tell this man exactly what his wife has done, he is terrified. Meanwhile, his son is so insanely ticked off, he's literally too angry to even be afraid, because he's like, I told you, father, I told you again and again and again, that woman was insane, she'd be the death of us, and now we are all freaking gonna die! Except Sylvester pops up and says, the Saint of Ehrenfest is far more merciful than you know. Which, seriously, Sylvester, are you propping up your own propaganda right here? Are you trying to convince people that Myne actually is a saint? Oh, I love it, because Myne has basically found a compromise, preaching forgiveness and trying to break the cycle of hatred. And, normally in a situation like this, the reader's, just rolling their eyes, oh my god, this is such a dumb plan. It's going to come back to bite you in the butt. They're just going to betray you again moving forward. Except, this is a magical world, where Myne can make sure that won't happen. Because first off, she has her whole magical shield, which can detect malice, and if anyone can pass through it, then if they agree to give their name to either Myne or the Archduke's family, then you can almost pretty much guarantee that this person will never betray them, and therefore they don't have to kill them, and don't lose out on that mana, which is rather important given the massive mana shortage they're dealing with right now, as a result of the royal family's massive purge a few years ago. So yeah, Myne is quite literally trying to break the cycle, and she might actually make it work. She might actually be able to change noble society for the better, and make it a place that actually, values human life, as insane as that would be. Oh, and speaking of valuing human life, Sylvester and Florence agree to basically adopt all of the children of the Veronica faction, or more accurately, all the baptized children of the Veronica faction. As for the unbaptized, Sylvester has literally not thought about it at all. Because, yeah, nobles don't actually recognize someone as a living human being until they have been officially baptized, and as a result, he has no idea how many unbaptized children there are in the Veronica faction, so he just hasn't bothered thinking about it. But Myne has. Myne has been thinking about this ever since, she first saved Conrad, and she has a solution. She'll just bring them all to the temple orphanage, and while it is rather expensive to raise, noble children in the orphanage, Sylvester decides to give Myne all of the family's money. All the money of every Veronica faction, noble with an unbaptized child, which feels like just such an insane amount of money. But honestly, I don't know if it is or not. I really don't know what Myne's financial situation actually is, because remember a few volumes back, she revealed that she spent, 16 large gold coins to transcribe the Dunkelfelger book, which, floored Hannelore. That is an insane amount of money. So, that is a lot, but I don't know if... Oh, God. The thing is, basically, Myne is spending so much money because of her obsession with books. I don't actually know how much she actually has in storage. Is she basically, spending as much as she's making, or she does actually have so much money that she doesn't really need to worry about spending too much of it? I really don't know. And though, now Myne has all the unbaptized noble Veronica children in the orphanage, and those who really excel, those who really thrive, those who really just stand out among the rest, will be given the option to be adopted by the Archduke and become proper nobles again. And as for the rest of them, they'll simply become blue priests because, the temple always needs mana. And if by some insane miracle that changes, if they get so many blue priests that the temple literally has too much mana, which seems like a very unlikely situation in this massive mana shortage, but if that does happen, then Myne will just rent out the blue priests to the lower city and have them work out and about filling up mana tools. So, huzzah! That's a win-win for everybody. Neat. And so, yeah, they managed to get the Bible back, managed to get a whole bunch of evidence against the Veronica faction, and managed to convince both the Veronica faction and Georgine that both Myne and Hartmut have been badly, badly poisoned. Huzzah! Unfortunately, though, their victories are short-lived, as then Ferdinand gets a letter from the Archduke of his new duchy saying basically, hey man, I'm dying, get here as quickly as you can so I can help you with socializing. And he really can't say no to this because, going now in the winter means that he'll be able to, basically make ingress, make progress, make new allies while Detland is at the Royal Academy, so he has to say yes. And this feels like a very just dry scene overall without a lot of emotions. Until Riarda, Ferdinand's, nanny, instead of calling him Ferdinand, my boy, calls him Lord Ferdinand. And that broke me. That literally broke me. I just started bawling my eyes out right there. Holy mother of God above. That was just so heartbreaking. And speaking of heartbreaking, from there, Ferdinand does all of his, packing up and everything in 3 days' time. And when he's, finishing up in the temple, Myne thinks this is the last time he'll be in this temple. This is the last time he'll wear those robes. And he actually gets a rather heartfelt goodbye from his temple attendants, something that leaves him a little bit shaken. He struggles to leave, looks back one last time, and he entrusts Myne to them. It's just, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And we also get a weirdly touching goodbye between Angelica and Eckhart, who are, weirdly one of the best couples in this entire series. Seriously. Actually, now I think about it, yeah, it's weird. All the best couples are, the Eckhart siblings. Eckhart, Cornelius, Lamprecht. They all have, weirdly good love stories, which is so strange to me, given that their mother actually writes love stories. There's something there. I don't know what it is exactly. But anyway, actually, okay, you know what? The gods in this world are real, and if they answer your prayers, maybe she has prayed that her sons would all find, great partners over and over again throughout the years, and the gods have actually answered that request. I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's very strange. And then we get the goodbye between Myne and Ferdinand as he asks or orders or just begs her to stay behind and protect Ehrenfest above all else. And to make sure she does, to make sure that she's locked down into this duchy, he gives her his estate. and everything in it, including every last single book. And while this might be considered, emotional manipulation, at the same time, let's not forget this is exactly what Myne asked for all those many, many volumes ago, back in that was back in part 3 when Myne was trying to get the ingredients for her, coma drink. And after she had that weird encounter where she may or may not have met a god, I'm still very unclear about all of that. Ferdinand realized that the plants that were submerged in her mana grew strangely and wanted to study them more. To which Myne said, I'll give you my mana if you give me a library. And now that promise has been, completed. Myne has gotten a library from Ferdinand. In exchange, he wants her to use all of her mana to defend Ehrenfest. Such a wonderful callback. And what's more, the estate isn't just, a building. It was something given to Ferdinand by his father. Perhaps the only thing ever given to him by his father that Veronica was not able to steal away. It is actually really emotionally meaningful to him, but still, he gave it to Myne. Not only because, he needed to lock her into Ehrenfest, but also because she is also important to him. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And then Ferdinand meets the current Archduke's daughter, Letizia, who is just utterly and completely fascinated by Myne's high beast. Wow. And this is all it takes Ferdinand to realize, oh, thank the gods above, she is not as bad as Detland. She is not as much of an arrogant, awful monster as that woman is. She is someone I can work with. And Myne has the exact same opinion, as after, maybe 5 minutes of talking to her, she decides that Letizia is an ally and tells her not only how to deal with Ferdinand, but also how to make sure he's taking care of himself. Oh, I love it. And while this is, just utterly and completely humiliating for him, at the same time, this might have been the best possible move that Myne could have made, as by the time that Ferdinand actually gets to the duchy, he finds out the Archduke is already dead, meaning that there's nobody that he can use to form connections in this new space, except for Letizia. And because of Myne humanizing Ferdinand, she has decided that he is a good person that she can work with moving forward. So yes, Myne in fact did save Ferdinand here. Huzzah! And it goes even beyond that, because Myne also proposed that Ferdinand host a concert as soon as he got to the duchy to basically seduce every single noble woman. And this is a smashing success. And while this is happening, Justice, Ferdinand's attendant, steals a servant's uniform and infiltrates Georgine's villa. So yeah, this entire series is basically become James Bond, and I freaking love it. We then just get so many freaking side stories. Seriously, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 side stories. We get 8 freaking side stories, which we do, basically at the end of every, major part of the series, which does make sense. Like I said before, the parts are seismic changes in the very structure of the series. And so, of course, we need to see how other people react to these major shifts and changes. First off is Irreplaceable, which is Sylvester's point of view, realizing that he can no longer delegate work to Ferdinand, while also thinking back to, when he first met him, and how it took him a really, really long time to realize that his mother was repeatedly trying to kill him. And even years later, he didn't fully realize, oh, so she was trying to kill you in the Royal Academy too? I did not know that. I am sorry. I love it. And it ends with him basically appreciating Myne for, caring for Ferdinand and for giving Ferdinand someone to care for in exchange, and for getting him to open up for the first time in his entire life. He is just so grateful that Ferdinand actually had somebody like that, somebody who made him more human than he has ever been before. Good for Myne. Next one is basically what I said, Ferdinand's concert, while Justice is infiltrating Georgine's villa. Next one, Star of Busy Winter. Oh, that's a fun one. As it's Cornelius and Leonore talking about the purge prep, which is particularly concerning for Cornelius because, as it turns out, his father Karsted's second wife, Trudy, is a member of the Veronica faction. In fact, she was a former attendant of Veronica, and that is a bit concerning considering that Karsted's, his whole job is to keep the Archduke alive, and his second wife very much wants the Archduke dead. So, yeah, it seems very likely that she's actually leaking information to Georgine. That is, really, really freaking concerning. I'm also very curious about the half-brother Nicholas, because this dude is mentioned, I think, like twice this entire series. Once as baptism and once in the playroom, where I think Cornelia said, "Oh, Myne, you can't get too close to him." And it makes a lot more sense now that we know that his mother is of the Veronica faction. Curious. And then we have Out of Time, which focuses on Matthias and Lorenz, children of the former Veronica faction, whose parents want them to offer up their names to Georgine. And that's a bit of an issue, since Georgine proudly announced that she'll steal Ehrenfests. So it's a question, do they support, Georgine, or do they support Sylvester? Because, there's a fairly good chance if Georgine says she can steal the Foundation, that she can actually steal the Foundation, and going against her would mean death, immediate death, as well as being cut off from their family and all the support involved with that. But then as soon as Wilfried and Myne show up, they realize, oh, we're in danger. In fact, it's actually a direct line from the light novel. Matthias thinks to himself, well, it looks like we're in danger. What? Seriously, who thinks like that? Oh, I love that man, especially because of what he does next. And first off, he pulls off one of the biggest BS moves in this entire series, going after them being like, oh, I've been so desperate to talk to you outside of the sight of our family. Like, no, man, you were not. Up to 30 seconds ago, you're still debating who to back. But now you're like, I've been so desperate to have this conversation. That's a baller move right there. That is absolutely a baller move right there. But it really works because what comes next is Matthias basically being a hero. Basically, he could very easily have this conversation in a private room, do something like that. It's over, easy peasy. But actually, saying it out loud in front of everybody lets them know, okay, this is it. We're out of time, people. We need to make our choices right now, right here. I'm choosing to back Myne. I'm showing you that I will back Myne, that you can do it too, that she will accept your names as she is accepting mine. Love it. Like I said, he's a real hero right here and just so amazing. And Myne, for her part, agrees to take Matthias' name, much more sure than when she took Roderick's name a few volumes back. And then we have, then the next story might be my favorite in this entire volume, The New Children, as it focuses on Wilma, who absolutely adores Hartmut, viewing him as being completely unarrogant, kind to everyone, and she says to herself that surely he must love children. Which, no, not really. The reason why he's just so fond of the orphans is because they don't get tired of his stories about Myne, and they're all fiercely loyal to her, so yeah, he likes children because children like Myne, and he can tell them the stories over and over again. Very cool. And then they need to deal with, the 17 new children, the former nobles. And of course, this is a bit of an issue because they're all, some mixture of terrified and angry. And Hartmut actually gets down on his knees and talk to Dirk and Conrad at eye level and ask them to teach them how things go in the temple, which, I like that. I really do like that. Hartmut, he is not arrogant at all. He is willing to do whatever it takes to further Myne's goals. And Myne wants the orphans, the temple, all that to run properly and clearly, and for all of them to be happy and healthy. So Hartmut will do whatever it takes, even talking on the same level as orphans, to get that done. As for the orphans, though, like I said, they're all scared or angry or whatever, but they all pretty much calm down when told that they can return to noble society if they work hard and get good grades. And I was really expecting this section to end with Wilma realizing, okay, Hartmut might actually be insane. Nope, she is still fully on his side, even after he goes on a rant that Myne is not only a saint, but a literal freaking goddess they will start worshipping in the temple. She sees all of this and is like, yep, that makes sense. I understand perfectly fine. Oh my god, I love this girl. I absolutely love this girl. Winter Resolution. This is great, as it focuses on Camille, Myne's long-lost little brother, who became friends with Dirk and Conrad since they all had the same toys. And then, Camille, despite not even baptized yet, gets headhunted by both Otto and Benno to join their respective companies, and decides to join the Plantain Company because he says, straight up to his parents, I want to make books and spread them everywhere. Which is almost word for word exactly what Myne said to them all those many, many years ago. So yes, Myne, somehow you managed to raise a bookworm from afar, and I have to applaud you for that. I mean, seriously, I want to see a scene next volume where Myne is talking to Luz or Benno or whoever, and they mention, oh, by the way, Camille wants to join the planting company. He wants to make books. I think she'll cry. I 100% think she's going to cry, as her parents did when they realized that they somehow managed to raise 2 bookworms in a row. Fantastic. Utterly fantastic. Then my son's departure focuses on Justice and his mom as they realize they may never see each other and may never be able to speak again as family as they're moving forward in 2 separate directions, but they both are weirdly similar and they each promise to live for those they have sworn to serve. It's nice. It gives us a little more context about Justice and even Georgine, which is rather interesting as turns out that Georgine and Justice were childhood friends who used to play together as children. Oh, and another weird detail in the short story is the fact that Justice had a wife, which you knew from last volume, but also a child. He had a wife and child, both of whom he gave up to serve Ferdinand. Holy mother of God above. That is some disturbing loyalty right there, seriously. And the last short story is Memories and Farewell, and takes place from Fran's point of view shortly after Ferdinand left the temple forever, never to return again. And him and the other retainers talk about, how things changed over the years and how Myne made Ferdinand softer and more lenient, even if it was a very, very gradual change. Though the fact they were forcibly separated here actually forced them to be much more honest with one another about how much they really did care and helped them close the distance. And ends with a rather interesting bit of foreshadowing as Fran promises to follow them if they asked for it. So wherever Myne and Ferdinand end up in the distant future, Fran will be right there by their side, and I cannot freaking wait for that. But yeah, that's the end of Part 4, Volume 9. This was a fantastic volume. I mean, like I said, I went into this expecting, it's going to be just Myne being upset and having to work through her funk or whatever, but no. Instead, it was just showing over and over again that Myne is ready to lose Ferdinand, that losing him will actually make her a better person, will actually make her stronger, and that she's already strong enough to stand up on her own. So fantastic. Absolutely freaking fantastic, and really, I don't know what to expect in the next volume, in Part 5, Volume 1. I mean, it's going to be, like I said before, a fundamental shakeup. Part 1 was, like I said, Myne as a commoner. Part 2 was Myne as a shrine maiden. Part 3 was Myne as a noble. Part 4 was Myne at the Royal Academy, where she regularly dealt with, higher ranked duchies and royals. So my guess is Part 5 is going to be focused more on the royals. I mean, currently we've met Anastasius and Hildebrand. I really do like Hildebrand. So, put some more focus on them, maybe meet the king, maybe meet the crown prince that Myne made a hairpin for, that Myne made a hairpin for him to give to his fiancée. That'd be nice to see. And just let me know what you think down below. What do you think is going to happen now that Myne and Ferdinand have been separated? Do you think everything that's led up to this volume has set the stage for Myne to stand up on her own without Ferdinand by her side? How do you think Ferdinand's going to do in the new duchy with his retainers and Detlands? Yeah, that's going to be really, really hard for him. I mean, seriously, even if Georgine wasn't there and she wasn't plotting something evil and insane, that would still be just so absolutely hard for him having a wife like Detland. But now he needs to, juggle both her and his crazy mother-in-law, and I just... Oh, this is going to be fun. But please, let me think down below. And until next time, peace!